All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Sammy Bohannon. Sammy, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'll tell you, I've been looking forward to this conversation, doing this interview with you, Sammy. I want to start. I want to give a shout out to the folks over at the Quoted platform. I found out about them a couple months ago through a friend of mine who he too hosts a podcast, and he was telling me what a great experience he has found or had just finding guests for his podcast. He's like, Kim, I've got some amazing podcast guests by using the Quoted platform. And so I was taking a look at it, and my assistant was like, well, Kev, let me just put up a listing for you really quick, and we'll just try it out. And within 2 days, I had 41 responses to that listing. And there was like six or seven of them that weren't a right fit and stuff. And we just kindly, declined those. But Sammy, you were one of those. And you and I got to connect and have a conversation and get to know each other a little bit. And through that process, I was just like, wow, I'm really excited to interview Sammy for the podcast here and stuff. And so here we are. And I'll tell you, using that quarter platform, well, I'm going to continue using them and stuff for sure. And so it has been an absolutely amazing experience. And I've been really looking forward to this conversation with you. And what I want to do is I just want to start by turning it over to you so that we can set a little bit of context for our listeners and let them know a little bit about, who you are and what you're all about, Sammy. So I want you to be able to share, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work that you get to do and the impact you're making in the world, and also give us some of the backstory because I have the benefit of already hearing some of that from you, and I'm really excited to have you share that with folks because it's through our personal stories that we really get to make meaningful connection with folks. So I'm just going to kind of turn it over to you, Sammy.
All right, sounds good. I am an OBM, which is an online business manager. It's kind of like a fractional COO for those of you who aren't familiar with the term of OBM. And I also have a team of virtual assistants. Right now, I have two, and we provide administrative and operations support to businesses with teams less than 10. And we kind of come in and we each have our different roles. I do the OBM work, they do the VA work. So I do most of the operations, they do the administrative work. And we come in and really we help with whatever you need help with. We do have some things that some of us are better at than others, but overall, we're a really strong and well-rounded team and can help with just about anything. So we've done a lot of different things. I've been doing this for 3 years now.
Okay.
But I've been in the online business world for closer to six, maybe. Um, I don't know, the years start to run together. I started out as an online tutor, and I
Okay.
got into that because before that, I was a teacher. I taught English as a second language in mostly middle school, but I have taught all grade levels, even college.
Okay.
Um, and I taught for 6 years in the classroom, and then I taught for several years online before starting my own tutoring business. Being a tutor just felt like the next thing. When I decided it was time to leave, I really didn't really have much of a choice. Um, I was non-renewed, and because I wasn't tenured in the district that I was in, I was non-renewed, and I knew that was going to be my last school when I went there. I knew that was the
Okay.
last place I was going to work as an in-person teacher. And so when I got non-renewed, I started looking into other options, and tutoring fell into my lap. It just makes sense. Teacher, tutor, it goes together. But I found that I was really burned out.
Okay.
Teaching is extremely difficult, especially when you include the fact that you only get paid to teach and not to do all the other things. Um, and I do not blame parents at all, but parents want all this information and they want phone calls and they want this. And then on top of that, you also have to be prepared for the lessons. Then you have to grade what the kids do outside of the lessons. And really, the amount of time that you end up working that's non-paid, it's so much time. It's more than what is spent actually with kids.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and so I found that I was just spending all of my time planning lessons and making sure everything was great for these kids. And they did really well in my program, but I was burned out. It was too much. I had two little kids of my own at the time. When I first started online, my kids were 2 and 4. So, very little, and
Mhm.
it was just too much for me to do all the time. I spent almost 6 hours every day planning for each student for that day that I had that night.
Wow.
Um, so I stopped doing that and I found virtual assisting. And it was suggested to me from some fellow tutors that I had known. I didn't really know what a virtual assistant was. And I looked into it. I found a company that hired virtual assistants, and that's how I got started. After a month or two there, I realized, well, I'm already an independent contractor with them. So why not do this on my own? Because I was really good at it. And even when I was tutoring, I had been connected to this network of tutors, and I was really helping some other people who weren't as tech savvy or didn't really understand some of the technologies or the platforms that a lot of the tutors were using. I was helping them set those up anyway.
Okay.
So it all just fell into place that I became a virtual assistant. Um, and then as a virtual assistant, I realized I'm not a virtual assistant. That's when I learned about OBMs, online business managers, and that I
Uh-huh.
was doing way more. Sorry.
That's all right. So you were doing way more just you were way more than a virtual assistant and doing way more than that.
Yes, I was doing a lot more than a virtual assistant. I was running some of these people's businesses. I
Okay.
was doing a lot of outreach and a lot of strategy and a lot of the other things that I do as the business manager. And then that's when I learned what an OBM was. Um, I mean, truthfully, I had no idea when I started out.
Uh-huh.
And then I learned that's what an OBM was. I think that one of the virtual assistants I met while working with that company had told me, "Hey girl, you're an OBM, you're not a VA." And that's when I started looking into it. And yeah, it's been great. And as far as the people we help and who we serve, it's just mostly small business owners who have small teams.
Okay.
As a virtual assistant, and the virtual assistants we have now, they can work with a little bit bigger teams than 10 people. But as a business manager, I don't take on teams bigger than 10. It's quite a bit for what I typically do.
Okay.
I've worked with in-person businesses. I've worked with an HVAC company. I've worked with some people who do gutter work. Um, I've worked with a copywriter. I've worked with a social media marketer. So it's really pretty expansive. I've worked with some high-level coaches. I've worked with some brand new coaches.
Okay.
Um, so I really don't typically have an industry that I stick to so
Uh-huh.
much as the tech that I know. And also, it's very important for me to be able to connect with somebody and to feel like we would get along well together before I bring somebody on to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I love that. I am with you 100%. In doing what I do, I am every client I serve, we are friends first. And there's this like really simple litmus test that I always use is like, would I invite this person into my home for dinner with my family? And if I would not invite them into my home for dinner, I got no business doing business with them, you know? so,
Exactly.
so yeah, I hear you 100%. So now I'm curious, give me an example. What's a result that you have helped one of your clients get that you're just like incredibly proud of?
Okay, let me think. Let me think. I've got a lot, but I've got to think of a good one. The biggest thing is I had a client who was working on creating this course. She was in the education business and she was
Okay.
working on creating a course for parents to help walk them through how to do. how to approach people in the school system and in the school district to get their child an evaluation for special education.
Okay.
Because it's not easy if you don't know the lingo, and it's not easy if you're not willing to advocate for yourself sometimes. And
Mhm.
that's not true in every district, but it is a lot. So we created a course from scratch, and built it out and got it out there into the world. And so that was really great. And just to be able to see it from, idea and planning stage to we get it out there and we're selling it and people are buying it,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's pretty great.
That's really fulfilling, really rewarding, you know.
Yes.
And I've created courses in the past too, and so I know what that's like. And gosh, I remember years ago. Well, let me see. So Abby, or she is 14 now. We adopted her when she was 3. So we were going through the adoption process like 11, 12 years ago. And I will tell you, here in Washington State, there's no checklist that nobody gives you to just say, here's all the steps that you need to go through if you want to adopt. And we just had to figure it out ourselves and like calling all these people and agencies and this and that and piecing it together. And I'm like, you know what, man, it would be really helpful if somebody could just provide a list and like, here's what you need to do, if you want to adopt a child and stuff. And so I get that whole thing is like, when you're trying to accomplish something like what you just described, and it's not an easy process, and there's not anybody just saying, here's the steps, somebody that comes along who's been through that process and can do that, boy, that's incredibly valuable. And
Well, and even as a former teacher, because my specialty was not special education, my daughter has a speech language impairment. And so when it was time to go through the IEP process with her, I mean, they're throwing a bunch of jargon at you and things that you don't really, even though I was in education, there was still quite a bit of it I didn't quite understand because it was a different specialty.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And does somebody just help you understand that jargon, understand that lingo? Like, what are they actually talking about here?
Yes,
So,
like what does this mean?
yeah, so that you can advocate for your child and stuff. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so now that we've got a little bit of context set, I want to switch gears just a little bit. And I'm going to reiterate the question around relationships for the benefit of our listeners. So, Sammy, have you ever met or been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to talk about my mom. She is
Okay.
not in the business world. She is a second grade teacher. I think she's in her 24th or 25th year. She's getting real close to
Wow.
retirement. She's been teaching second grade the whole time. And she's just an amazing woman. Can I talk about her just a little bit?
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
She's the only person in her family to have graduated high school and go to college. Or she was the first one because me and my sister and our cousins have gone to college, but she was the
Okay.
first one in her family. She was the first person in her family to get out of poverty, and really have a career. So my mom is pretty amazing, and she really deserves some acknowledgement. But she had a friend that she knew through her church that was an online tutor,
Okay.
and that's so my mom is really the one who encouraged me to start my own business. I never imagined that I would have done this. I was I'm very type A, which is kind of needed to do what I do, but I have always been someone who plays it safe. I never would have done something like,
Oh,
and she encouraged me to do it because she saw how much I was struggling as a teacher, how much she has struggled as a teacher, and how much things had just changed over her career, and knowing how much it was going to continue to change over mine.
yeah.
So she tells me about her friend, and her friend had taken this course that taught you how to become a tutor online and create your own business. It walked you through everything. And my mom paid for me to take the course. So everything I know about business came from that course, and it's all related back to my mom paying for me to do it. I learned how to create like an LLC. I learned how to do social media marketing from that. I learned how to talk about myself. And then, I mean, from there, I've taken other courses and I've learned other things and I've worked with coaches, but it all started in that moment, even though that was tutoring instead of what I do now.
Yeah.
If she hadn't have done that, I probably would still be a very miserable teacher.
Wow. Wow. And so what, so coming from where you were to now running this business, I know you're a parent just like me. And in fact, I saw one of your kids run through there, and I just thought, you know what? This is totally like life at my home too and stuff. Because we could that could have easily been going on in my camera. One of my kids coming in here to grab something off the shelf behind me or whatever, and and for me personally, well, back when, so my son Brock is 17 now, and about a year and a half after he was born, Zoom wasn't a big thing back then, back in 2008, 2009. I don't even think Zoom was on the scene yet. And that video conferencing wasn't a big deal yet at all. We still
In
did,
2008, 2009, we still had dial-up internet from
yeah.
in rural Kentucky. So,
I was doing phone calls for sure. I was on the phone, but my son Brock at a year and a half, he got smart, and he would wait for mom to be busy, and then I would be sitting here in the office on the phone, and I could hear the pitter patter of his little feet on the hardwood floor out in the hallway here outside my office doors, and he'd be booking it down the hallway, and he'd come bursting through my office doors and be like, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," and he just wanted to play. And and there was a time before that where I would think like, oh, that's unprofessional. And after having Brock and having that experience, you know what, man, I would get goosebumps when I would hear his feet pitter pattering on the floor and know, oh, here he comes. And it didn't matter that I was on the phone talking with a client or whatever. It didn't matter. I would, when Brock would come in, I would just grab him and scoop him up and sit him on my lap, and I would just say to whoever I'm talking to, "Hey, my son just came in here, and he's a year and a half, and he just wanted to hang out. And
mhm.
I'm not going to deprive him of that." And there's a lot of people that would say, well, that's unprofessional or whatever. But for years now, since Brock was that age and even before then, I have been really focused on creating a business that supports the kind of lifestyle that I want to live. And I am a father to 7 children. I am a husband to my wife Lisa. I am a grandfather currently to 6 children. I just found out on Saturday that we're going to have another grandchild in March. And that
Oh,
was really cool. So we'll soon have 7 grandchildren. And I wouldn't trade that for nothing. And I know that you've got to kind of feel the same way and stuff. That now here you are, now you're an entrepreneur and you get to have the luxury of working from home. And you shared with me that, before we started this recording, you were just kind of, Kev, about how long is this going to go? Because I just want to make sure my kids are, they're doing some school work and stuff, and I just want to make sure that they're all set for the time that we're going to be here. And like, but how rewarding must that be for you to be able to have a business that allows you to not only be the entrepreneur that you want to be, but to be the mom that you want to be too and stuff.
yeah, it is. It's a big reason why I started a business to begin with. Other than, wanting to get out of teaching. My last year of teaching was actually in 2020 during COVID, and we couldn't find a babysitter. We had found a couple in-home sitters, and one of them had a personal issue and couldn't continue. And then we had an issue that we were not happy with. And I am very mama bear protective, like maybe a little overprotective sometimes, of my children. And I don't want to take them somewhere where they're going to cry every day when they get dropped off. So and not to mention during COVID, everywhere was shut down. We could not
Yeah.
find them.
Yeah.
So that was another reason why I wanted to start a business. It was so that I could stay home with the kids. And they were really young at the time, like 2 and 4, maybe even 2 and 3 for part of the year because they're 18 months apart. And it's very rewarding to be able to stay home with them. I knew when I was a teacher that I wanted to homeschool them, but I knew at the time my husband was staying home with them, and I knew he couldn't do it. I
Okay.
love him to death. He is a great man. He is great with our kids. He loves them, but he is not a good teacher.
That
He
would be me too.
he couldn't even tell them how to, like, when they learned how to do the dishes or how to put the dishes in the dishwasher, like there was still some kind of miscommunication somehow. I don't know how that's so difficult. But God bless him, he could not figure he couldn't explain it good enough. So he's not a teacher. I knew he couldn't handle it. And so I felt like my kids were gonna have to go to public school. And so I've been able to homeschool them by doing this. And I've been able to really give them opportunities that we get to go to the park in the middle of the day when there's not 100 other kids and when it's not very hot, well, not today, let's not, today's crazy, but in the fall when it's not as hot because
Yeah.
it's still very hot in Mississippi. um we get to go in the morning, or we get to go to the children's museum in the morning when it's much less crowded, and so they get to do more of what they want. And I get to be here while they grow up. And that's
Yeah.
really all I want. I just want to be with my kids. And they're also learning things that I never would have known. Like I said, we still had dial-up internet in 2028, where I lived in rural Kentucky. And I mean, we didn't have high-speed internet or internet on our phones until like 2014.
Okay.
That's when that's when we got real internet that was fast and or that didn't require us to unplug the telephone.
Uh-huh.
And so they're getting to see me work on the computer, and they're coming up with these great ideas of careers that I became a teacher because I'm good at teaching, but I didn't know what else I could do. I
Yeah.
didn't have any other options, I felt like, even though I was incredibly smart. And I guess maybe people didn't help me figure out what I could do because I was smart and they thought I already had an idea. I think people assumed I was going to be a doctor or a lawyer, and I didn't want to do those things. And I felt like my only option was teaching. Um, and so now they're getting to see like this is what somebody does and this is what so and so does, and they're learning different things, and it's just really great to see how things work. And then I also know that I'm the biggest influence on them. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, what's an example of a situation where you personally you got to make a really big impact and maybe even in the moment, maybe even surprised you a little bit, but you also know that that would have never happened if not for the relationship that you have with your mom.
okay. So, like in business or just in general?
In business or outside of business, either way is totally fine. Whatever's coming up for you.
I owe everything to my mom. Um, like I said, she's pretty incredible. She made some poor decisions when she was younger, um, especially around her choice of my father. My dad didn't even finish sixth grade. If it was not for my mom, I would not be here. My dad's family had always and continues to live in extreme poverty. And she realized when she had me very young at 19 that this is not where I want my life to go. And she made ton of changes. She went to school, and I mean, she barely graduated high school, but she graduated college with honors. So I mean, she worked with two young kids, and and she had to work also to pay for us to live because she was a single mom. And she taught me the value of education, and now I have a master's degree. My dad didn't finish sixth grade. Um, I would still be stuck in a little holler in Kentucky,
Yeah.
probably sitting at home doing literally nothing right now. And I would never have met the people I've met. I'm the first person in my family to have gone out of the country. I got to go to Costa Rica during college. So I have had so many experiences, and I 100% attribute all of that to my mom.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's just so awesome. That is so awesome. You know, it's you and your mom have a really special relationship for sure.
We do,
And
yes.
yeah, yeah. That that is awesome. Well, I'll tell you, I really want to thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today and just share from your heart, Sammy, and stuff. And for anybody that's listening to this, and maybe they're thinking like, man, you know what? I really like Sammy. I like how she shows up, and maybe they're even thinking like, man, maybe they might be able to help us with our business. And anybody that would like to reach out to you, get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? Any websites, any resources we can share, Sammy?
Yeah, so the best way would be just to reach out through my website or
Okay.
LinkedIn. My website is bohannonvirtualsolutions.com.
Okay.
I'm also pretty active on LinkedIn. And then I have a list of, I think it's 100 plus, I can't remember the exact number, 100 plus tasks that you can delegate out to other people to save you time.
Oh,
And
okay.
it also has some journaling prompts in it that I added because I think it's really important to really sit with it before you start handing stuff off to other people so that you can really sit and think, what do I really need? What's going to make the most benefit in my business? And people really tend to like that resource. So
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And that's on your website then, I take it.
yeah, that's on my
Okay.
website and I can send you the link as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Sammy, any last thing that you feel led to share before we call it a wrap?
Just that I really appreciate getting to come on and talk today. And I'm just really glad that I got to talk about my mom. We don't really celebrate each other very much, and that's something we should do more often because she is
For
pretty
sure.
amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I once again really just want to thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you, Sammy. And I'm looking forward to getting this out there and share it with a lot of other entrepreneurs, founders, and CEOs. So thanks again.
Thank you.